Welcome everybody to the YachtSys Academy webinar series. Today we have the topic brand building. For this webinar we have two lovely ladies here, Caroline Lobatto and Katherine Milburn. They are from the agency Refined Marketing in Lancashire in UK. But before I will go into the topic and we will hear the presentation, I want to explain you a bit about what is a brand, because a brand is a very abstract term, and some people that are not into marketing don't really know what a brand means. And I found a very good example when I was going into supermarkets this morning and I picked this product here. This is a big pot of the smaller brother, the Nivea cream. Why I choose this brand? Actually, this brand, the smaller brother, is here, that you probably maybe have even at home. This is a skincare cream. It was invented in 1911, and since 1925, the CI, the corporate identity of this product, almost did not change. They modified slightly the font here, but the blue stayed all the time. And what makes this brand so remarkable? This is a good question. This is one of the most valuable brands in Germany. You can buy it in almost all countries of the world. It does not matter in which supermarket you go, or even at the petrol station, you find such a small pot of skin cream. And despite the big competition that is on this market, this product still has a market share of 25% in Germany. The producer, the Beiersdorf AG in Germany, they create a revenue of 8 billion euro yearly. They had a growth, even you might consider this is like a grandmother product. They had a growth of almost 100% in the last 20 years in the selling. This product still makes around 70% of the whole revenue of the Beiersdorf AG, which is remarkable. Its brand value is estimated in between 7 and 9 billion US dollars. Alone 150 million of these little pots, or little bigger pots, are sold worldwide. And what makes this brand so recognizable? It is maybe this name that is derived from the word nevis, which means snow. And actually, if you open it, you see that this cream is really snow white, and you might even think it smells like fresh snow. It's really recognizable, and you cannot compare it with any other skin cream you can find in the supermarket. Well, I think this is a good example to explain what a brand is. And now I want to give the word to Caroline Lobatto and Katherine Milburn. They prepared a webinar with the title 5 Simple Steps to Help Build a Successful Brand. And I think this is really necessary, because creating a brand is quite a big field of activity in marketing, and having this broken down in 5 simple steps will really help you to structure your marketing campaigns and to create your own brand. Okay, then I will give over the word. I will join in at the end of the webinar. There you might be able to ask your questions. I also want to encourage you asking your questions. You have the possibility in the chat to post any question, and the ladies will be then at the end of the webinar able to answer them. Okay, then I will go back and see you lately at the end of the webinar.
Brilliant. Thank you, Felix. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. We're really excited to be a part of the SYS Academy and to be talking all things brand. Please do stay with us towards the end. We will let you know of a few marketing platforms that we use within refined marketing, and they cost nothing. So this helps you compete against those bigger brands. It would also be great to run a poll with yourselves in the background of this webinar today. So if you can let's just bring this poll up and just find out about the reach of your brand. Just bear with us 1 second. Okay, so we'll just run this poll in the background, and then we'll have a little chat about it at the end of the webinar. Okay, so we believe that defining your brand is an essential part of your company's success, regardless of your company's size, budget, and target audience. Building a brand identity can take time, and it might feel a little bit overwhelming at first. During this presentation, we'll be taking you through 5 simple steps that we use at Refined Marketing when working with our clients to create a new brand or refreshing a current brand. So first, let's start by going over what we mean by a brand. Creating your brand is more than just your logo. Good brands do facilitate a visual and an emotional impact that's inviting to their audience. Your branding should be the thing that initially draws a customer in and will keep them coming back over time. So it's essential that you build a rapport with your audience through your brand, and keeping your brand consistent, customers will remember you and trust you. Your brand identity can be displayed in many ways, from your logo, colour scheme, and to your mission statement. Your brand should showcase who you are as a company and will help your audience decide whether they should buy from yourself or not, or your competitor. So here's a quick breakdown of what we're going to cover today in this pretty diagram. When defining your brand, it's really important to do your research, develop a brand personality, create a purpose statement, define your brand's identity, and plan how you're going to go to market with your brand. Right, now we're experts in the definition of what a brand is, beautifully described by Felix. Let's get started on our 5 steps to building a brand. Step 1, your brand mission. What is your brand mission? It sounds like a really simple question to answer. However, it's actually quite a challenging question to answer. We have spent weeks working with clients in workshops defining their brand mission. Understanding the mission of your business really does help to pave the way of how you tackle your brand positioning. For example, take your charter business. What do you want your customers to experience? Is it luxury, maybe adventure, fun, or could it just be an element of all those things? You'll see on this slide here, we've picked out a couple of mission statement examples from well-known brands, whom I'm sure you're all quite familiar with. They may be larger companies, but the process is still the same. So to help you figure out your brand mission, let's just first identify your unique selling point. What do you have that your competitors don't? One effective and powerful branding approach is just to try and stand out from your competition. An easy way to do this is simply research your competition. So we suggest that you take 5 competitors and look at what similar attributes they have and what makes them unique. And during this research phase, take some notes. Draw up 2 columns headed what you like about your competitors and what you dislike. Now note down what you feel you should incorporate into your brand identity. Get a grasp of what your competition looks like, and also take a look at your competition on social media. This gives you free, really easy access, and it gives you an insight and an idea of how they're talking to their customers and representing their company online. It will give you an idea of the tone they're using and will help you create a unique brand identity as you move forward. So enough of me for a minute. I'm just going to pass you over to Katherine, who will take you through the next couple of steps.
Thanks, Caroline, and morning, everybody. So the next step we're going to talk about is brand positioning. So now we know who our competitors are, we can now move on to a better understanding our customers. So brand positioning describes how a brand is different from its competitors and where or how it sits in customers' minds. One common mistake that we make is forgetting that people buy with their emotions. So we look at finding a fit between your offering and your customer needs. A good brand will be true to your company's strengths and relevant to your customers' needs, while also differentiating your company from the competition. So these can be done by defining your brand positioning, which is in order to create a unique and successful positioning for your brand, you need to analyse the following. Understand what your customers want, understand what your company's and brand capabilities are, and understand how each competitor is positioning their brand. Next is to choose a position statement that will resonate with your consumers, can be delivered by your company, that is different from your competitors. An easy way to define a brand positioning statement is to summarise it in 3 words. So for example, you could have luxury, tailored, and unforgettable. Try not to choose generic words such as quality products, unique, successful, because this is the aim of pretty much every brand. The remaining challenge is then to reflect this brand positioning in everything that you do. So that be brand personality, service, visual identity, design, communications, etc. So the next stage then is developing a brand promise. So this is the value you deliver to all of your customers all the time. An effective brand promise helps build a strong brand, represents your brand experience and emotional connections with the core customer. To motivate clients, a brand promise must achieve the following 3 goals. It must convey a compelling benefit, it must be authentic and credible, and it must be kept every time. A promise can define a company within the marketplace. So we'll just take an example like Apple. I know it's a big corporate company, but their promise is own the coolest, easiest to use, cutting edge phones, computers, and other consumer electronics. Then after brand promise, we look at then a brand proposition. So this is what you do to ensure your promise is always fulfilled. Your brand selling proposition is how you convince your audience that you can solve their problems and that you're the right company for the job. Without a brand proposition, you have nothing you can highlight to make stronger connections with your target audience. Unless your brand position is clear and meaningful, your customers simply won't connect with you on a deep level. So let's look at Apple again, for example. So their brand proposition is Apple promotes itself by focusing on the innovation and user experience it delivers to its audience while conveying a unique thought leader tone of voice in its messaging. These elements come together to create Apple's brand proposition. So in simple terms, your brand proposition isn't just one thing. Instead, it's multiple factors that join together to demonstrate the uniqueness of your brand. So let's take a deep dive into profiling a customer. So what's on the screen at the moment is just an example of a customer persona. So a customer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and real data about your existing customers. When creating your buyer persona, consider including things like customer demographics, behavior patterns, motivations, and goals. Once you gain an insight into your customers, you can better engage with them with a more effective experience. So let's ask a few questions. Who is your ideal customer? If your brand hasn't developed buyer persona profiles or robust profiles of your ideal customers, this is the first place to start. Your buyer personas should shape almost every aspect of your brand identity. Determine what your customers' personas value from a brand. Are they looking for cost savings or the highest quality? Do they want deep relationships with their vendors or convenience? By understanding your ideal customers' pain points and priorities, you can formulate a relevant identity. Another question is, what pain points do you solve? Your customers don't start looking for your company because their lives are perfect. Chances are you offer a product or service that will solve a problem. Your customers need you because of an existing pain point or problem. Your brand identity should instantly communicate how you solve these problems. Regardless of how your brand connects with your customers, your ability to solve problems should be at the core of your brand identity. So then we think about, well, how do we create your customer persona and how do you get this information? So you can do things like keyword research is one effective tool for generating data, allowing brands to discover exactly what customers are searching for in relation to their product or service. Social media is another important tool for establishing personas, with most platforms already having inbuilt analytics that can offer key data sets. Facebook Insights, for example, allows brands to tap into how users are responding to adverts as well as what kind of content is generating the most engagement. By comparing this to specific user data, such as gender, relationship status, and so on, brands are able to flesh out personas even more. And finally, alongside data-driven tools, customer personas can also be largely influenced by surveys, feedback, and one-to-one interviews. So just to talk now on to step 3, which is to talk about brand identity. Now we're experts in knowing what a brand is, we've written our company's mission, and we know what makes our customers buy. It's now time to look in more detail at a brand identity. So what is a brand identity? This basically includes logo, typography, colours and messaging, and it complements and reinforces the existing reputation of a brand. Brand identity attracts new customers to a brand while making existing customers feel at home. It's vital that your brand identity is consistent. So again, let's ask some questions. How does your logo communicate your brand? Your company's logo is one of the most important aspects of your brand identity. Your logo will be one of the few original elements of your brand, and an effective logo can create a lasting impression. To increase your chances of having a memorable logo that encourages a strong emotional response, go for a more simple look. When a logo is simple, it becomes an open canvas customers can fill with positive experience they have with the brand. Also, the simpler the logo, the easier it is to scale between mediums such as digital advertising and the more traditional print advertising. A logo needs to be flexible enough to look great on a large advertising board or as a tiny social media icon. Then we talk about font. What is your font? Typography communicates a lot more than just letters. It can impart feelings of energy, fun, humour, traditionalism and more. Much like colours, humans associate emotions and adjectives with fonts. The most famous fonts are recognisable even when taken out of context. You'll want a clean and simple typeface to lead your brand design, and it should work in harmony with your logo and your colour palette. So that moves us on to, what are your colours? We associate colours with emotions. Your brand's primary and supporting colours are an important component of your visual identity. By selecting colours that are associated with your brand values, you can instantly communicate your company's mission. A lot of colour psychology is intuitive, like blue expressing calm and red and yellow expressing passion and energy. Depending on the tint or shade of the colour you use, that emotion can be adjusted. A tint is the colour mixed with white, making it lighter, and a shade is the colour mixed with black, making it darker. A lighter tint of blue conveys tranquility, while a darker shade of blue often conveys trust. And since we live in a multimedia world, creating a brand identity is an extended visual language. By using supporting visual elements such as infographics, design assets, icons, and photographs. Now, the next step really is all of this above should be built into your brand style guide. Creating a brand guide that addresses multiple elements of brand design will help streamline the production of materials in the future. This ensures that every email, newsletter, social media post, brochure, advert, etc. adheres to the same standards. And you must include easy to follow guidelines for every part of your brand identity, including examples and use cases. As you embark on the design process, make sure your brand identity is distinct. So this is, it stands out among competitors and captures your customer's attention, that it's memorable, it makes a visual impact. Again, let's consider the Apple. So their logo is so memorable that they only include the logo, not their name on their products. Scalable and flexible, so it can grow and evolve with your brand. Cohesive, each piece complements the brand identity, and it's easy to apply, so it's intuitive and clear for designers to use. And finally, what kind of personality do you have? Brand personality is defined as a human set of characteristics that are connected to a brand. Brands with a strong, well-defined personality instantly win some likability points because customers are able to relate to them on a personal level. If your brand were a person, what would they be like? It might be a bit cliche, but it's a smart way to think about brand personality. Brand personality has a huge impact on the voice and tone used in your marketing materials and other communication. If a personality isn't established, customers will get mixed messages and have trouble connecting with your brand. A strong brand identity needs to work for everyone, both your internal team and your customers. Now, to give you a break from my voice, I'm now going to pass back over to Caroline, who will take you through the next step. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Katherine. That was a lot of information there. I'm sure that Felix will have this presentation to distribute afterwards, and obviously please keep asking all those questions. We're happy to answer at the end. Thank you, Caroline. I am Caroline. Thank you, Katherine. I think I need another coffee. Thank you, Katherine. Right, we've now got a brand that we're proud of. Let's shout about it and move on to step 4, brand communication. When we work with our clients creating content, regardless of what their service, we always start with the elevator pitch. Your elevator pitch is a brief, memorable, persuasive description which includes your USP and will spark interest. It's really helpful if you can write a 20 to 30 second elevator pitch describing who you are and persuading your audience to buy your services. This can then be used as your introduction on the website, in your company brochure, or of course, in a face-to-face conversation. For example, you can say something like, we're a family-run business with over 30 years of expertise, specialising in luxury sailing experiences. Book with us to unlock over 20 worldwide destinations, and we will tailor-make your adventure and make it an unforgettable one. That's a really very quick, brief example. But in that elevator pitch, you can see that there's some USPs popped in there, and it's a very sort of informal sentence just to try and wrap up what you do as a business. So you have your elevator pitch sorted, and now the real fun starts. Let's start creating your comprehensive content schedule, which will be your website, your social media, your company brochure, and any other mediums you wish to communicate your brand with. Writing engaging content to capture your audience can be quite tricky, and it's very subjective. And sometimes we just need to accept that what we publish may not work. Emails from a mail shop might get deleted before opening. Traffic to your website may have been reduced due to your content being out of date, and your customer story that you spend weeks putting together just doesn't work. So try and keep things simple and make things easier for yourself. Have a plan. Your content will have more value if it's part of a bigger story. Have a strategy which your content aligns to, that will make your marketing campaign far more impactful. So if you create a 3 to 6 month editorial calendar, that would be a great start. It'll give you a bird's eye view of how you can entwine topics with other marketing activity and make sure your content has the best opportunity for success. Planning also helps you consider your content needs for the up and coming quarter, which will help you with your budgeting, rather than publishing content reactively. And working this way is a shift in mindset. And although you'll need time to set it up, it will give you an organised and confident way of trending with the current topics. So make your content actionable. If you create a successful call to action encouraging your audience to interact with you, it's the ultimate goal. Give something back. If your audience has taken the time to read what you have to say now, it's time to reward them. And there's lots of different assets you can create around a piece of content. Because a missing call to action is like going to a party and not giving out a party bag. Here are just a few ideas that come to mind that you could give away to include maybe discount codes, loyalty membership points, an infographic, an event invitation, or even some promotional items if you're at an event or seeing people face to face. Okay, right, back to Katherine now, and this will be the final step before we wrap up for questions.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. That's really interesting. Just to say that step 5 of the process, so this is about brand awareness. So internal brand marketing is where the reputation of your brand starts. A strong marketing strategy, which is adopted by all those in the business, will support the strength of the brand identity. So let's just go through some elements of a marketing strategy. So first is get your team engaged and involved. Let employees be your biggest champions and brand advocates. Like you could sponsor an event that raises money for charity, or creating a video that taps into the allegiance of the brand will motivate employees to share the videos with friends and family. Make it personal. Personal touches and one-to-one engagement is driven by the need to make that emotional connection above all else. Customers are looking for that emotional connection to a brand, which can also result in brand loyalty and word-of-mouth referrals and online reviews. Another one is building strategic partnerships. This will add value to your brand and will cost nothing, just your time. Forming partnerships is a low-cost strategy to see success more quickly and expose the brand to a new audience. Think about what other businesses complement yours and will be beneficial to your customers. For example, your customers that book a trip will be potentially researching travel insurance, maybe crew for the yacht, some events that they want to go to or have on the boat, days out during their trip. There will be a vast amount of businesses to potentially form relationships who could happily refer yours. And then be the solution. Start helping customers solve a problem. As a way to build brand loyalty, providing solutions for customers is an excellent method to create a lasting impression on a customer. Creating how-to content, offering exclusives that are relevant to your customers, making their lives easier, responding and listening are all key techniques, whether this is through social channels, blogs, emails, or newsletters, etc. Maybe you initiate a forum, so let customers interact. No matter the product or service you're offering, your customers want to interact with your company, or at least other customers. A good marketing strategy doesn't need to be expensive. Successful marketing is not a one-off event, an email campaign, or a few tweets. It is behaviour of joined-up marketing showcasing your brand's personality. The digital disruption is responsible for this Uber effect. Wanting results now, real-time marketing is essential for businesses to survive. Staying up to date with industry trends, creating and publishing new engaging content is really important. So here are a few platforms that we use at Refine Marketing. I'll leave it up for a few seconds if you would like to take a note of any of them. Okay, thank you. So that concludes our 5 steps to building a brand. I hope you learned something new and that you feel ready to create your own brand identity. So, do you have any questions? Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Katherine, for this very professional presentation of these 5 simple steps building your successful brand. It's very good to have this clear structure of how someone should start from step 1, going to step 5, doing the right things and creating your brand. I think this presentation really helped to make up our minds, and I think I will also take these as a template to go and rethink our brand building with this template. Thanks a lot. I had posted 2 questions here, and one of my questions maybe you can pick up. It was, I can read myself here. It is about, this logo. We had this example of Nivea that was not much alterated, but it was alterated slightly. There were like different fonts, but the color stayed the same. So is it good for companies, let's say older brands, from time to time to modernize their logo? Sometimes I see in the yachting market very old-fashioned logos. Is it good to do it, or should you stick with your old logo? Can you say something like give an advice, or what should people or companies think about?
So this is Katherine. Hi. So I think to answer to that is, I think it depends on your brand and how your business is evolving. So it could be that your logo just needs a bit of a refresh. So you're not completely doing a complete rebrand, or you're not renaming it or doing maybe a complete redesign of a logo. It could just be a refresh, just to maybe bring it more into where your company is positioned within the marketplace, looking at your competitors. Do you stand out? has it become more of a crowded marketplace, and you need to almost refresh your look, your feel, which is part of your logo, to stand out in that competition. You know, a lot of big companies continuously go through brand refreshes, but then they've got the budgets to be able to do that. Whereas obviously smaller, companies, as I said, it could just be like a slight refresh you need to do, or it could be that you're quite happy as the logo as it is, and it just may be that you need to look at maybe some other parts of the identity, like your tone, your voice, your messaging, or maybe what channels you use. I think it varies on the brand and the business, and how you want that to evolve, or how the business is evolving, and what's being put into that.
Okay, thank you. So there are some more questions came up. Maybe you can have a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Angeline, how precise should an editorial calendar be in your opinion? Now, when we say a 3 to 6 month plan, plans are always there to be changed. But if you start off with the intentions of having that plan put in place.
One question, if I may ask, editorial calendar, maybe we should explain what this really is, because maybe some people are not so into marketing. Maybe you can explain what.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just broaden that out then and call it a content calendar, a schedule that you put in place as a business over a period of a few months, which will show what content that you're pushing out to your audience. So it could be that you have a case study, or you may have a series of campaigns running across social media, which content's being pushed out. So it could be an infographic even. It could be a piece of editorial that goes into a magazine. But by putting a plan in place, it enables you to budget very well around that. And it enables you to join up all those pieces of marketing. So it could be that you have snapshots on social media that will lead up to a bigger event. But your editorial calendar is all connected. So how precise should an editorial calendar be? I would say have good intentions for the first chunks of 3 months, 3 to 6 months, but be open-minded that things do change, budget changes, and just keep your ears to the ground and find out what topics are really trending at the moment. Dirk, we've got a request from you to put up the 5 steps slide, which is just here, and I think we'll do an overview of the software that we use.
Yeah. So these are just some of the platforms, and majority of them are free.
So, if I may ask here, well, I know some of these platforms because I'm doing marketing myself. Are these tools that, let's say, are these for beginners suitable, or how somebody who's not into marketing yet, can he handle such tools, or would it need some training to go into it? Can you really get, as a, let's say, newcomer in marketing, results out of them, or do you need an expert to handle these tools? What is your opinion?
In our opinion, we feel that you can go in as a beginner using these platforms. We work with our clients using these platforms, so we'll enable them, give them a little bit of training. But if you can work a Facebook account, or you can work apps on your iPhone or your Android phone, you will absolutely be able to manage these platforms. They're very, very easy to use, and it's just very much a step-by-step instruction. Hootsuite's brilliant because it enables you to really manage your content calendar, as we were just talking about before there, Angeline, and you can then schedule and be really forward thinking in what you want to push out into your social media.
When I see Hotsuite as this platform, I think it's very helpful if you do social media marketing, because you create the posts in one place and you can publish it from there, like more or less with one click to each different social media channel, right? And you probably also see the statistics coming in from these social media channels in one place, instead of logging into 5 different platforms and finding out how the reach and the response was. Or
absolutely, I think it's still very important not to be complacent. Don't sort of schedule your updates on social media out on Hootsuite and then come away and forget about it. Still interact on a daily basis or a weekly basis on, for example, if you've got a Twitter or an Instagram account, because you'll find that hopefully people are interacting with you and be asking you questions. So you don't want to sort of set your business out to look like a robotic business. But it's definitely a very good tool if you're single-handedly running your marketing department and you're struggling with resource there, and it will just make sure that you know that you've been putting things out to your audience.
And definitely, we come later in, I have to say that the first webinar was also about results from marketing, remaining return of investment. And probably these tools will help you to measure the success of your marketing campaigns. It means you see how many leads you get, how many conversions you have from new customers. So really you can figure out what's the return of money spent in marketing, right?
That's always the big question, isn't it, Felix? You know, what is the return of investment in your marketing campaigns? And it really depends how long your sales cycle is. Sometimes you won't see return of investment, or it'll be struggle to measure for a good sort of 6 to 12 months. Sometimes it's immediate, depending on your call to action. But if you take something like Bitly, this is a software system that enables you to track any links. So, for example, if you are pushing out maybe a piece of content, it could be an infographic, but the person has to download that to be able to view it. Something like Bitly is very good because you can see where the traffic is coming from. You can see how many people have downloaded. So, I mean, these are basic tools. I see there's a question from Thorsten there, sort of questioning whether Google Analytics is okay for a newcomer. There's lots of resources out there to sort of educate yourself on how to use these systems. Google Analytics, you can go as basic or comprehensive as you wish when it comes to looking at measuring the visitors to your website and their behaviors. But it's definitely a great tool if you pop it onto your website and make sure the code is embedded there, just so you can measure it at some point. Because once the code's in there, it gives you that option.
Yeah, I remember, I love the word infographic, because we created the infographic some years ago with the title What You Should Know About Bareboat Yacht Charters. And this infographic was showing some facts that we found out from our big data of YachtSys, displaying them in nice graphics. Our designer made that very nice. And I have to admit, we still get a lot of traffic only for this piece of content, this infographic that we uploaded, of course, on our website as PDF, on Instagram and various channels. And we get thousands of visitors only for this infographic per year. So it's remarkable. And you see the published date was like years ago. And Google Analytics, we can exactly see who is accessing that. So it's really worth to create valuable content that is appreciated by your audience and also helps your brand building.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, an infographic is a great way of representing something visually that makes it a little bit more simpler to understand for your audience, because sometimes, you know, if you've got technical information there or you've got a lot of information, using an infographic is a great way of just presenting that in a more visual representation that it just you can capture the audience, attention, but also it can be like a step by step. It's easier for them to process.
Yeah, exactly. If someone in the audience is from the rental business, just search in Google for infographic, maybe tourism in your region, and you will find under Google image search definitely quite some nice infographics that could inspire you what could be done in the level and the same in the media type of infographic, and how you could like sketch the vacation you are selling. I think it could be a great inspiration, and we see that creating such content requires some time and effort. You need definitely a marketing expert and a designer, but the input has to come from your business knowledge. But you can be easily inspired by good examples, and maybe you can create something for your own charter business or for your own location with your geographic specifications that really creates your USP to differentiate you from the rest in the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there are some other questions. Maybe we can come to them before we finish the webinar.
Okay, Angeline, you have a question regarding the social media. So what are the main social media channels for the yacht charter business? It's very visual, isn't it, when it comes to that particular industry. So we would recommend the likes of Instagram and Facebook. And it just, they're both very good channels for B2C. Obviously, LinkedIn is very much B2B. However, it's great to have a bit of thought leadership on LinkedIn and just to have a company page maybe there. But when it comes to interacting with your community and your audience that you're building, definitely Instagram and Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is it, what's the difference between Instagram and Facebook? Can you say it bluntly that there's a difference, or?
I mean, Instagram is just very visual with hashtags. Facebook is sort of building up that sense. You can build up content using more sort of words, as a matter of fact, I suppose. Facebook is more of a bigger animal, I would say. There's much more you can do with Facebook. But Instagram is trending with a generation where, they want to be on Instagram. The increase of followers or where they're having their photograph taken is what Instagram is used for.
Mm-hmm. How about YouTube? I mean, you not necessarily have to be a great filmmaker, but you could also, create simple slideshows and upload to YouTube. How about that?
Yes, you can do. I suppose you need to think about who your audience is. I think YouTube would be great to actually show videos of the destinations, when people are researching where they would like to go, or even for on board, the actual yachts themselves. It could be like a tour of the vessel. That would be great for something like YouTube. But video is a great way to interact. So you have all your videos uploaded to YouTube, and you send links going to your YouTube channel. That could be another way to do it. Mm-hmm. So, Thorsten, I'm just looking at your question regardless lawful marketing. Let me just try and find where that question started.
All right, yeah, from Thorsten, lawful marketing.
Data protection. I don't understand the question. I mean, in the UK, to send out things like email campaigns, we're GDPR compliant, which means that anyone that receives our content, our emails, they have signed up to those, and newsletters, etc.
All right. Yeah, I think even this topic is worth an own webinar because it's complex. We all know how many companies are still struggling with the GDPR compliancy, even more than 1 year after this coming into into action. So I think maybe we will even add a webinar dedicated only to this topic, because I think this will extend too much the range of this webinar here. But thanks for the question, because this inspires me to find someone holding a webinar about this topic. Good, good. Do we have any other question here? I think all is answered, or? There was a question from my side. Is there an easy way to, how should I, when create personas? I mean, how many personas should I create from the whole lot of customer data that I have? I mean, how many personas does it need? Do I have to break it down to 10, 20 different personas, or 1, 2, 3? Is there a good figure where I could say, well, I should concentrate on 3 to 5, or what is your recommendation?
It depends. So the persona is the person that obviously buys in, they're the person that signs the check, that buys your product, buys your service. You might find that you have 3 or 4 of those decision makers within the family or within the group. I would say if you can drill it down to about 3 or 4, then that's brilliant. That's a good start. I think if you go any more than that, then you need to just review who your actual target market is and go back to reviewing your unique selling point, because otherwise it could become quite an expensive marketing campaign to be targeting so many different personas.
Mm-hmm. And I presume that the tools you were highlighting at the end of the webinar will help you to create that personas, right?
I think to create your persona starts from the very beginning, Felix. I think it comes from your USP, and then you can obviously look at some data from the efforts of something like Bitly, Google Analytics. You can see, Facebook. You can see how people are interacting with your marketing. So it's one of those things where you have to put content out to see how it's working, and if it is working, to then build your persona.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. I think you answered all the questions. Very good. There are no more coming in. We kept exactly the schedule, half an hour webinar plus 15 to 20 minutes Q&A. Thanks a lot, very professionally, and done by you, Caroline and Katherine.